Before we even get into the five boxes, I need to say something directly. Sheriff Grice, I've held back from publicly hammering you for the initial investigation into the Bryon Macron case and how it was handled. It wasn't on your watch. I gave you that space, but at this point, your complete lack of action now is the problem. Every time you're asked, you repeat the same line. We'll reopen the case if new evidence presents itself. Sheriff, evidence already exists. It's in the autopsy reports, it's in the lab files, it's in the interviews, and it's in the lack of interviews that the Medina County Sheriff's Office initially conducted. Some of these people are still alive today, which is imperative to get their story. And that surveillance footage that was ignored, what you're really saying is you won't move unless someone else does the investigating for you. That's not leadership. That's neglect. And Medina County does deserve better. Listen up, Tentacle Nation. If you want to keep this roll call tight, head over to www.theinfamousexchief.com. That's Command Central. From there, you can slide into Patreon. It's a monthly subscription with exclusive drops at least once a month, or lurk for free just to jump in on the polls and pretend you had a say. Discord. That's where the real chatter goes down. Think of it like the squad room. The coffee's cold, the jokes are bad, but everyone's running their mouth. And the best part, you don't need some shiny Facebook profile. You can show up as Detective Donut or Sergeant Snark or Detective Dimmer Switch if you want. Nobody cares. Just get in and start talking. Hit the links for YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Apple Podcasts. That's standard issue stuff right there. Old school? Not a problem. Email me. Feeling paranoid? Use Signal. Signal it over. Encrypted tighter than a rookie's first report. Want your voice on the record? Speak pipe. Leave me a voicemail. If it doesn't sound like you're 3 sheets to the wind, I might even use it. Got a tip on a case? Fill out the tip sheet. Be as quiet or loud as you want. Do I burn sources? Ask him. Oh, wait, you can't. Want me to cover a case? Drop it under case consideration. Or keep it simple. Buy me a coffee and grab me a Brew Loud Be Heard mug. Because this isn't just a channel, it's a shift briefing. Be loud, be heard, shake the system until the truth falls out. Five boxes of evidence into the Bryon Macron case. And I'm not talking about small boxes, I'm talking about banker-sized boxes that we never knew existed. That's what Medina County finally admitted to. Boxes sitting in a storage all these years, only coming to light now because of a public records lawsuit I had filed. Not because Sheriff Grice came forward, not because of transparency from day one, but because they were forced to say it out loud. And yes, granted, what were the chances of me finding out about these five boxes had they not been transparent? Probably small and little, but this wasn't something he did out of the gracious of his heart. Now, five boxes might not sound like much, but think about it. It's a high profile death investigation. Every report, every lab submission, every interview transcript matters. So, what exactly is in those boxes, and why are we just now hearing about them? That's the story, Tentacle Nation. And today, we're going to break it down. Before we dive deep, drop in the comments what you think those five boxes might really contain. Investigator notes, photos, or just dust. Let's hear your theories. So let's talk about the boxes and transparency. First off, I want to be fair. The prosecutor's office was transparent when they admitted the boxes exist. Without that moment of candor, we'd still be in the dark. But let's be clear. Sheriff Grice was quick to wave it away. He brushed off the boxes saying they didn't contain anything new, except even the prosecutor admitted many of the handwritten notes inside probably have never been released before. Handwritten notes matter. They're the raw thoughts of the investigators in the heat of the moment. They're the details that don't always make it into the polished reports. They're the side comments, the timelines scribbled in margins, the leads that may or may not have been followed. If those notes were never released, that Medina has been sitting on material that could change the understanding of this case for years. And if those notes were released, which I haven't seen them, then the sheriff's office can't explain how they lost track of the 5 boxes in the first place. Either way, it's bad. Tentacle Nation, tell me, do you think handwritten notes could change this case? Or would Medina just shrug them off the same way they've shrugged off everything else? And then Channel 19 jumped in. They ran a story on the 5 boxes. And look, I'll give them credit for showing up because at least they covered it. But let's not kid ourselves about why. They only knew about the boxes because of my lawsuit. That's the only reason this even made the news. So what did we get? We got Sheriff Grice repeating his favorite line: we'll reopen the case if new evidence presents itself. Over and over. Channel 19 let him say it, unchallenged again. And I've got to ask, how is new evidence supposed to present itself if no one is investigating? What are we waiting for? A lightning bolt? A confession from the grave? Evidence doesn't just appear out of nowhere. Evidence is found by investigators who are actually doing their jobs. Christ isn't saying he'll reopen if evidence exists, because it already does. He's saying he won't move unless someone else hands it to him, wrapped in a bow. That's not law enforcement. That's deflection. So I ask you, Tentacle Nation, what would you have asked Sheriff Grice if you were the reporter? Drop your hardest question in the comments. Let's break this down. Grice's position is a catch-22. On one hand, he says, bring me new evidence and I'll reopen. On the other hand, his investigators aren't out looking for the new evidence. So how exactly is it supposed to appear? What he's really saying is this: I'm not going to do the work. I want other citizens, journalists, people like me to do the investigating. Then maybe, if it's convenient, I'll reopen. Tentacle Nation, think about that for a second. We're talking about a death investigation of a township trustee, and the sheriff is saying the responsibility to move it forward doesn't lie with him, but with the public. That's backwards. His job is to investigate. Our job is to hold him accountable. So, Tentacle Nation, in the comments, do you agree this is a catch-22? Type yes if you see the trap, or no if you think Grice is being straight with us. Let's measure the room. And that's exactly what I tried to do in the letter I wrote to Sheriff Grice. That letter, if you haven't seen it already, I will post it. That letter didn't spark Channel 19's coverage. It was separate. It was on my own. It was a call to action. In it, I laid out the failures, clearly mishandled DNA samples, ignored witnesses, statements, surveillance footage that was never analyzed, radio traffic that conveniently went dark, and evidence that was never tested. Every one of those points is enough to justify reopening the case. Their letter wasn't speculation. It wasn't rumor. It was evidence-based. But once again, the sheriff hides behind his favorite phrase: new evidence. Well, Sheriff, the evidence is there. You just refuse to act on it. Tentacle Nation, if you read my letter, tell me in the comments, what point stood out most to you? What failure do you think is the biggest smoking gun? Now, let's circle back to the 5 boxes, because the sheriff wants you to believe they're nothing. But even the prosecutor disagreed. He said there are investigator notes in those boxes that likely have been never released. And here's why that matters. Notes are messy. They show what people really thought in the moment. They show what leads came in, who called when, and how investigators reacted. They show things that don't always make the polished final reports. Those notes might answer why certain interviews were never conducted. They might show which leads were intentionally dropped, or they might prove Medina County simply didn't do their work. So, Sheriff, those notes are new. Your dismissal is misleading and disingenuous. If they're not new, then explain to the public how your office misplaced 5 boxes of case material in the first place. Either way, Medina County Sheriff's Department looks bad. Tentacle Nation, I'm looking for a lot of engagement. That's why I keep asking these questions, right? In the comments, what do you think is more likely? That the boxes hold brand new notes, or that they prove Medina has been sitting on the same stuff and calling it nothing? Let's hear your gut reaction. And let's not forget, there's already evidence on the table. The autopsy showed sharp force injuries and possible drowning. There was a geospat report that showed that it was highly unlikely to have been done by Bryon himself, which again really throws me off, because according to our initial reports, BCI was the one that supposedly had this narrative that it was staged. Their own reports contradict that. The evidence also shows that he did not drown. The coroner's office confirmed it was undetermined. The BCI lab reports identified multiple DNA profiles that have never been explained. And we know about the surveillance cameras that were never reviewed before the footage was erased. We know about radio traffic that went silent in the middle of the search. This isn't a lack of evidence. This is a lack of follow through. And Medina County Sheriff's Department isn't suffering from an evidence shortage, it's suffering from an accountability storage. So, Tentacle Nation, do you think Medina County ever planned to get real answers in this case? Or was it always about closing the book fast? Comment your take. So, here's where we are. 5 boxes surfaced because of a lawsuit. Prosecutor admits they may hold notes never released. The sheriff dismisses them anyway, and when given the chance to be pressed on camera, Channel 19 lets him repeat his broken record about new evidence. The truth is this: evidence already exists. The only thing missing is the courage to act on it. Sheriff Grice doesn't want to investigate it unless someone else does it for him. That's not leadership, that's a dodge. And that's why we're here, to keep the pressure on, to expose the failures, and to make sure Bryon Macron's story doesn't die behind 5 dusty boxes in a Medina County Sheriff's Department storage room. If you're with me on this, Tentacle Nation, hit the like button, share the video, drop some sort of emoji, drop a comment. Let me know that you're paying attention. Before we close this one out, let me give you a preview of what's coming down the line. There are some items that we're going to be digging into very soon. One is the Backpage angle. Was Bryon really on Backpage? Was it proven it was actually him, or was just another rumor that Medina County Sheriff's Department officials leaned on without ever verifying? We're going to get into that. 2, I did speak with Fred Woke, finally. It was a great interview. We'll be talking about him soon and the dynamics around Paul Hartman, the original investigator in the case that worked with Bryon Macron. There's a lot of controversy over Paul Hartman. Today, we'll get into that. And there's an interview with a guy named Matt Reyes. It was conducted by BCI. He actually went into BCI. This is after the investigation was closed. When exactly was the interview, and why was it happening after the Sheriff's Department declared the case over? That's research we're digging into, and I'll bring you the answers. Be loud, be heard, shake the system until the truth falls out. Please, please, please hit like, share the video, drop a tentacle in the emoji comment section. So I know you're still with me because this fight isn't over.